So, good day everyone. Today I'll be presenting a systematic review entitled Mindfulness-Based Interventions and the HPA Axis, a systematic review of studies assessing cortisol. So, this paper explores how mindfulness practices may influence the physiological stress response, specifically focusing on the hypothalamic pituitary adrenal or the HPA axis and its key hormone, which is cortisol. So first, let's begin by outlining the nature and scope of this review. So this study is a systematic review, meaning that the authors synthesized findings from multiple research articles on a common topic. So the focus is on the link between mindfulness-based interventions, or the MBIs, and their effect on cortisol levels, which reflect HPA axis activity. So more importantly, the review covers both clinical and non-clinical populations, giving it broad relevance across health conditions and everyday settings. For the objective and purpose of this study, the main aim of this review was to evaluate whether mindfulness-based interventions can influence cortisol, which is a key biological marker of stress. Specifically, the authors examined whether programs like MBSR, or the Mindfulness-Based Stress Reduction, and MBCT, the Mindfulness-Based Cognitive Therapy, could produce measurable changes in HPA axis activity. A secondary goal was to assess how strong and consistent these findings are across different study designs and populations. Next, moving on to the conceptual framework. So this diagram illustrates the theoretical framework that underpins our understanding of how mindfulness-based interventions may influence both psychological and physiological health outcomes. Starting at the top, we have mindfulness-based interventions, or the MBIs. These are structured programs such as mindfulness-based stress reduction or mindfulness-based cognitive therapy, wherein these interventions train individuals to cultivate present moment awareness and non-judgmental acceptance of thoughts and emotions. So MBIs are proposed to enhance cognitive emotional processes such as improved awareness regulation and reduced rumination. So in other words, mindfulness helps people notice their thoughts and emotions without getting caught up in them, which reduces mental reactivity to stressors. These cognitive and emotional changes in turn influence HPA axis modulation, which is the body's central response system. So with regular mindfulness practice, we see improvements in cortisol rhythm and a decrease in stress reactivity, indicating a more adaptive physiological stress response. From this central mechanism, the model branches into two outcome domains. On the left, psychological outcomes, wherein mindfulness is associated with reduced stress and depressive symptoms and enhanced overall well-being. On the right, for the physiological outcomes, improved immune function, better cardiovascular health, and a reduced allostatic load, meaning that the body experiences less cumulative wear and tear from chronic stress. Altogether, this framework demonstrates how mindfulness can shape both mind and the body, operating through psychological regulation to promote biological balance and overall health. Next, for the research method, this review followed a structured methodology where studies were collected from major databases such as PubMed, PsycInfo, and Scopus. So to qualify, the studies had to first be peer-reviewed, include human participants, use a recognized mindfulness-based intervention, measure cortisol in saliva, blood, urine, or hair. So the studies were then analyzed qualitatively, comparing designs, population, intervention, durations, and outcomes. For the key findings, most of the findings were mixed. Some studies show a clear decrease in cortisol after mindfulness training, while others reported no significant changes. These differences may be explained by first, the type and duration of the intervention, next, frequency of the practice, whether participants were clinical or healthy populations, and lastly, the method of cortisol measurement. To So overall, though, the evidence leans towards MBIs positively influencing HPA regulation, especially when programs are consistent and structured. Next is for the implications of findings. So the review highlights three main implications. First is for research. More standardized study designs and cortisol measurements are needed. Next, for clinical practice, wherein mindfulness can serve as a complementary approach to managing stress and conditions linked to HPA dysregulation. So, for public health, incorporating mindfulness into wellness programs may help reduce stress at the population level. So, while more high-quality trials are needed, the results are encouraging for non-pharmacological approaches to stress management. Next, we have the theoretical framework. So the review is grounded into two key theories. First is the HPA axis theory, wherein stress triggers a hormonal cascade that releases cortisol. Chronic activation, however, is harmful to health, and mindfulness may help reduce this activation. Next, we have the stress and coping theory by Lazarus and Folkman, where mindfulness enhances adaptive coping, enabling individuals to manage stress more calmly and more effectively. Together, these theories support the idea that mindfulness can regulate stress at both psychological and biological levels. Next is for the conclusion. So, in summary, mindfulness-based interventions appear to influence cortisol levels by improving emotional regulation, reducing perceived stress, and downregulating the HPA axis. The relationship is shaped by both mediating mechanisms and moderating factors such as baseline stress and program intensity. Overall, this review supports mindfulness as a promising tool for managing stress and promoting well-being. That will be all. Thank you.